Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Tavola Aperta, which is one of the three special projects of this year's International Art Exhibition, Viva Arte Viva, curated by Christine Massel, who we have the pleasure to have with us again today. And the other two projects include the Artist Practice Video and Unpacking My Library. And all of three are a sort of way to get to know better the artist and also to let the artist be heard. So today we have two guests, Mariechen Danz and Alicja Kwade, who we welcome here, and we thank you for coming. And also welcome to all our guests. They are exhibiting separately in this year's show. Mariechen Danz has an installation in the Dionysian Pavilion, which is comprises different pieces. Topographic mud floor, which I loved because it's a reuse of a work by Anna Heringer and Martin Rauch from last year's Architecture Biennale, curated by Alejandra Ravena, and a mixed media installation entitled Ore Oral Orientation, a womb tomb, and a video of the performance Not in Arrow Ore Oral Orientation, which took place during the opening week at the Biennale. Alicja has two main works. The first one in the Pavilion of Time and Infinity, Weltenlinie, which is an installation and performance-based work, a sculpture and performance. Two works, actually, because there's a performance and the work in itself. And the second one is Pars pro toto, which is you bump into it when you turn the corner of the Isolotto, and you have these a galaxy of stone spheres that meet you with this wonderful sound that comes from the Voyager's Golden Globe record. And what you have in common is that the Pars pro toto will be part of the of Mariechen Danz's performance that will take place this afternoon, just after the Tavola Aperta, so we can go there afterwards. And it is a performance entitled Clouded in Veins, a Subjective Geography. So I would like to start by asking you, especially probably maybe Mariechen, to tell us about the performance and this work that brings your work together with Alicja's work, but also with other artists like Kerstin Brasch.
Yes, it's, well, Alice and I have known each other since '99, so when we were talking about being in the Biennale, and we discussed first what we were both going to show, and that's how the idea came up to connect in this way. So the idea is to bring together Kerstin Brasch, who's a painter who does these experimental marblings, so this old technique of painting on water, and with the imagery it's abstract, but it also kind of has this references in it that seem to depict biological processes or geological strata and so on, or astronomical constellations. And so the idea was that I would to bring together the imagery of Kerstin Brasch with the installation, The Planets of Alicja, which of course also has this micro-macro on the scale once the body is standing with the spheres and their materiality. Each of the stones, I'm sure Alice can say more about, comes from a different country and has a different mineral base, whatever, different kind of stones. So really it was trying to, I thought I could add some language there and some activation that would kind of use the space in a different way and connect the language in that sense. And then, so Gediminas Saigos, who's a composer, and we made, based on Alice's initial Voyager sounds that she has that are part of the installation. We went from there and developed a soundscape that is a 30-minute piece, and it also includes Unmap, that's my band, songs. So there'll be a performance that talks really about a subjective mapping, as the title says. So, and it also includes the maps from my installation in my piece. So there's a lot going on, but it'll be just two elements on the piece, and an acrobat, Salih Yazdani. So just getting everything in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think it fits so great together. So for me, it was like, sometimes, luckily, when you bring two things together, you can develop like a third level of both works. And Mariechen's work is all around, like systems, maps, like historical, mapping and, searching for all the systems. And what I did is also like a kind of optionally system, like one option of a let's say, map. So that is fitting very much together. And also I thought that, I know Mariechen's performance is quite good, so I thought that it's like also like a physical kind of competition, like to have her like as this human being, like kind of performing on and at the place with these heavy stones, which were kind of, they're solid, so they're like unbelievable heavy, and they are like what the planet Earth is, because they are like, we are living on a round stone. And then she's like a goddess, playing with these different, planets, probably. Yeah.
So, and tell us something about the globes, the installation. Where does that work come from?
It's actually what I've been saying. My work is a lot about, like, I would say, options, different options. So I try to research systems which are creating our reality, so-called reality. So that's kind of my general work. So I look at things like, okay, what is like a measurement system, what is time, what is a picture, what is an object, what is the information about an object. So that is like kind of a poetic like gesture to think about different possibilities of our planet also. But they are all real nature stones, so like they are part of our planet. And I try to get each from a different continent. So they are kind of collecting all of our planet together in one work.
And where do you get the idea of the sounds of using that? Because it's very interesting and it fits great. It's really seems like they are born one for another.
It's to be honest. I'm always like thinking also about a situation when I'm like invited to show wherever. So it's like so I know they're like I have the sculpture. There are people passing, millions of people, and I kind of also wanted to kind of fix it together with a to give it like a soul, like an atmosphere. But I was like working with this Voyager before, so I knew the sounds of the Voyager. Okay. And what is kind of, but it's a bit tricky because that is something, and because my work is about information. So that is like, the information, and we've been like trying to give out to space in 1704 to whomever. But it's very naive, and it's very kind of, like human naive, I would say. Yeah. And then it's also like a little tricky because they're just good sounds, just like, laughter, birds, water, but there's nothing, no screams, no war, no nothing. So it's like kind of I think it's it's interesting to see how we kind of try to see ourselves and to introduce ourselves out in space. So so I mixed, I separated all the sounds and I mixed it in an 8-channel sound installation. So so the sound is also giving like a physical body to all the work because it's moving from, so it's like, it's moving around. Yeah.
It sort of animates the globes.
Yeah. So you can kind of imagine, or I hope that you could get like an imagination of like kind of different planets, possible forms of life, and because of those ground speakers, I hoped that I think it worked pretty well, that people are touching them and lying on them because they think that the sound is in the speakers, but it's not. It's underneath the speaker. But I like this gesture that people are starting to hug them and
and they're all full. Completely. They were extremely heavy.
Yeah, extremely heavy. Yeah.
But they seem like they're floating.
I would like to ask you about the way you have worked on this piece, because Actually, I invited you both without, at the beginning, knowing that they were so close. And then they didn't dare to say, I'm invited to the release. They were supposed to not tell, but
Yeah.
and then
Sorry.
It had to be a secret until a certain point.
Yeah, it was really hard. Yeah.
You did well. You did well.
I was
I
really,
did.
I was like, but then like 2nd February, I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
the day of the press conference, they could say officially, we are.
Yeah.
And actually, at the beginning, you had your piece being developed for the Arsenale, and also you. And then you had a second idea, which was not only to show the piece with the mirrors and the stones reflecting, which were dealing on time, but also this stone sculpture outside with sound, which I thought was a beautiful project. But what was interesting is that it was coming from the situation here, that you experienced the site, and you had this new idea. And then because you had this new idea, Mariechen had the idea to perform in your piece. And I think it's a beautiful way of for also the public to see how collaboration can emerge and how the work emerges, because it's about different desires that are working with each other, and that creates an energy and another desire. I mean, it's a bit the same for, I mean, Dawn Casper, who is here with us and who has had an experience in the Giardini to invite a lot of people. So in general, I think collaborations, when they are just like forced, if I would have told you
it's difficult.
do something, Alicia, you know. So can you
it's like
just like maybe
then,
say something about this, why you like this idea of collaborating first, and how you proceed in your exchanges, you know, I mean, on a very material level.
Well, in my own practice, I'm collaborating with a lot of people all the time anyway, because I'm working in different mediums, and with music and costuming and sculptures and drawings. I mean, just like a lot of different mediums. So I like to collaborate with people in order to have, of course, their expertise, but also because the conversation extends itself. But with this, I mean, normally I perform very rarely, once every, year or 2 years or something. So normally it's always about, the purpose for my performances are solely to activate the work that I make in order to see, to question their autonomy and to see how they change depending on if I sing with them or don't, or touch them or don't, or so on. And so with Alice's work, I really just fell in love with the globes when I saw her sketch, and it was an instinctive desire. It actually started as a joke. I just said, you need a belly, you need a belly and some boobies on those balls, you know. You need to get some body in there, you know. And
it's very organic.
Yeah, I mean, we were just,
Actually, we've been joking around a bit in the beginning, and then because I never seen your cake.
I'm a planet
your planet cake. Yeah. And then she was like showing me, and she was like, "Oh, you don't know this work of mine?" I was like, "No, I don't know this." And she has sent me pictures over, and I was like, "That's kind of fantastic." I mean, that's exactly kind of what I try to express in a different way. Also, this, but I'm like, this because you are like handing over this cake, and people are eating like a piece of
maybe explain, Mariechen, what is this earth cake?
So, this is casting.
That I've tried to.
This was a
that I eat.
A collaboration with, this is Castine Brecht's work. A collaboration with Castine Brecht. It was the first initiation of Clouded in Veins, hence the repeat of that title, and it was to activate her paintings, and so we had literally marble cakes, and we made all the planets. We included Pluto, even though he was newly discharged, and they're correct. They're in their correct size according to their relation to each other, of course. But they're all around this size. And then Earth was much bigger to show our, ridiculous sense of importance. So we had, and then we were cutting them and passing, eating the cake throughout the performance and so on. So the first that was also one of the
like
first
kind
things.
of Saturn eating.
And the public also, I remember
all the audience was eating the cakes. Yeah.
So did you bring cakes for today?
No, not today. Not today. Today we have Alicia's
Too
cake.
much spurs. Yeah, we have stone cakes.
Yeah, we have stone cakes today. Yeah. Yeah. No, but I mean, I have to say, like for me, it's such a specific and like basically such a rare situation. I mean, the situation with Alicia's installation. I mean, you never know when that's going to be in that format again, and you know,
it's the first time that you collaborate on a piece.
Yeah. And so it's
this sort of organic universe that you share. This also this interest for some these cosmic motifs that we find on your dress that are coming also from your collaboration with Kerstin Brecht, who is an artist who works in a so-called group called Das Institut,
also,
a German artist. Because Alicia is not so much collaborating in general, she's not doing performance, but there is a performative aspect in your work, actually, in the Biennale for the first time.
Yeah,
I think.
actually not really for the first time. I did things before, but it's very
but
delicate. It's not, of course, the first time in public.
Can you explain that to, I think that here we have two,
yes, we have some of the performers.
Two very nice, hello girls.
Yeah. Hello. Four actually.
Where are you in the performance of Alicia? Yeah, I think I've seen you, and you are.
Yeah.
But you are alone. Okay. So we have these wonderful young twins who were acting in the piece of Alicia, and one of the other twins who were in the piece. Actually, I don't know how much people you hired, all from Venice or Veneto.
Quite a lot. It was really. Yeah.
So let us know about your performance that we have not all seen in detail.
Actually, it's based on an older piece. I mean, I did, because I kind of, in my work, I did a few pieces which are like kind of work with like doubling situations or things or imaginations of something. So I had pieces before, like I have like two identical branches, but one is reflected, the other is the real one, and they're always in two separate spaces, for example. I did some cars. I've been driving, my boyfriend was driving a Nissan, and he had an accident. So I copied the dent, and I milled it in aluminium, and I put it in the other car, which I brought from Bristol, so it was like a mirrored copy of the other car. So that was actually my first performance, let's say, because I was like, the work was working while we have been driving the cars and using the cars. So it was like a daily performance, let's say. And I was, copying all the scratches on and on and on. So from that point on, of course, even before, I was like dealing always with this idea of like another me, another option of myself, or what is like saying that I'm me and not somebody else. So it's like, what is it? Is it language telling I'm Alicia? Is it my genes? Is it matters? So, and then I really wanted to do always a performance with similar twins. But like actually what I did before was the objects, like these branches in separate places, like things you don't even realize really. It's just more like it just creates a feeling more than obviously like a piece of work, I would say. Yes. Because with the branches before, for example, it was like you pass, let's say you're in a museum somewhere and you see a simple branch leaning on the wall. So it's a simple branch leaning on the wall. And you just pass the museum and then you see another simple branch leaning on the wall. And you would not even realize that it's the same thing. But it is exactly the same thing, but just reflected. And so in the performance, here for Christine, I developed this huge installation with the mirrors and these objects, which are like also copies of the other objects, and they're reflected and they start to grow and to get on. So I wanted to add like another level to the installation, and so I developed this work with the twins, which is just very delicate. So it's like what they do is actually we have like one girl or two girls who are like coordinating them. So they have an ear in. Okay. And so let's say, when like public is coming in, and so Roberta, for example, is saying, okay, there's a woman with a green dress coming from the left. So the first twin is getting the information, and then she's just passing the person and dropping some paper, like nothing special. It's not even, I would not even call it performance in this way. It's just like a gesture. Yeah, it's a gesture. And then she's getting out of space, because I have these two doors also in the space, so I have the option to do that. And then the other girl, her sister, is getting the information woman with, green dress to your right.
Yeah.
And then she's doing exactly the same thing. She's just passing and dropping the papers again. So it creates more like a déjà vu thing. It's not even, so some people see it, others don't, but that's very fine for me because it's more like a strange feeling which makes you unsure. So it was like, for me, it was like a try to get like, in this physical work, like three-dimensional sculpture, to kind of put like an acting time element in it, which is kind of hopefully like, even like putting up the levels of dimensions in a way for me. And it's very confusing, I think, and that's what I like to kind of create a feeling more than a like obvious work.
And this we find on the website of the Biennale because there are some regular
on the website
streamings
and also on YouTube directly.
On YouTube. I'm very curious if you dare to say something, dear partners of the work of Alicia. No, but Julie, Albertine, and Martina, if or you, if you notice people looking at you being surprised.
Not all people. There are some people that are doing other things and they don't notice us. Yeah, but some people, yes. Usually, I am the first one that do the action, so I don't see the reaction of other people. It's my twin sister. Yes, but she told me that lots of people notice.
I've been lucky. I had a nice experience because a friend of mine, she met me in Berlin, and she was like, something really strange happened to me in your space. I was really, so what happened to you? And she was like, yeah, you had this installation, right? I was like, yeah, I had this installation. But something really strange was going on there. What was that? And she was like, was somebody else doing a performance in there or something? And I was like, yeah, okay, so that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
But it's also true when I didn't see it live, I saw it on the video.
Yeah.
And when you start watching the video,
Yeah.
you don't notice it immediately.
Yeah.
It's like the first time you see one of the twins losing the papers, you don't pay much attention.
Yeah.
And then when you get him the second or third time, you're like, okay, that's what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's more like, for me, it's more like the viewer, like creating the performance or not in the end. And it's more like a feeling, and it's more like about what we recognize, what we don't, how we think, how we kind of, unsure ourselves to be there at place in reality and what it really is. And I think it's just you just need a little bit to make people completely unsure about here and now, and and that's quite interesting, I think.
Please participate if, Is there, I think there's a microphone down there. There's one there.
I just wanted to, is it on?
Yeah, I think it works.
No, I just wanted to say, because I noticed their grimace, they had kind of straight poker face.
A bit,
So I'm like,
a bit closer.
okay. And then there was one of them standing right behind me, and I'm like, okay. And then they are changing places, like they're walking around, and I'm like, and then I thought, oh, there's something wrong with me, because, and I'm like, wait, there's the mirrors, and I told my boyfriend, I'm like, no, there are two of them, I saw them. So it was quite, like, I caught myself being confused, it was quite cool.
Okay, I'm happy to hear.
And then, no, but let's continue, but like,
Okay.
so you joked my belly on your
Christine.
stone, and
Yeah, and so it's like, to be honest, I'm really not collaborating a lot. And so I can just do that with friends, actually. I work with a lot of people, but usually it's more like, okay, I'm like, somebody's teaching me how to use something or how to create something, or I work like with different companies. But that's not like, so it's something I can just do with people I kind of trust, I think. So because I trust in her work, and I know her work quite good, so it was like, for me, it was very organic to kind of say, okay, that makes completely sense, and we are together in this Biennale. And so for me it was very obvious, and we can really create like a third body of these two bodies of work with bringing them together. So, and also it was for me really actually nice to think, it was the first time I've been really like, deeply thinking about like overcrossings in our work, which I've been not really obviously seeing before. I mean, I've been like feeling it, but not really like, you know. So I was like really searching actually for these overlappings, and they are quite a lot. I mean, we are the same age, we studied together, so probably, you know, so it's, you are always probably influenced by kind of similar things, but so for me it was a very natural thing to get on with. Yeah.
For me, I must thank you, because I think I didn't have the time to do it until now, because the fact that you used also the Biennale to experiment is the best thing.
Yeah, it's great. I think
that can happen,
great.
you know.
Yeah.
It was the same with Yi Suk-kyung, actually, who proposed a performance which was not in the first plan. And I must say that that's the miracle of the Biennale. So that after the time we take to discuss things and so on, there are new ideas and also new phases of the work of the artists that are developing. It's not just about picking a work and bringing it here. It's about like having all these artists imagining new even practices.
Yeah, which is actually great. I mean, which is, of course, to be honest, I was a little frightened to do this performance also, because, you know, when you do like a new, it's not done yet, but it's like, you know, it's always like difficult to do new things and together and stuff. But, you know, in our case, I think when you trust somebody, it's like, you know, it's like something else. But it's great that you are also leaving us experiment a bit.
No, it's also wonderful to see around the Biennale all these also rehearsals, and it's sort of like a work is...
The rehearsal was quite problematic, because it was heavily raining, but I must say that we have here a very professional artist who is going and with all conditions, you know. And beautiful is that her dress, with these motifs of keratin dress, is referring to nature and to the cosmologic elements. So with the context of the water of Venice, she looked like Catherine Deneuve in Peau d'Âne, but in a beautiful version, a cosmic version.
But I think, Mariechen, you are, on the contrary of maybe Alicia, you are used to collaborating with other artists and performers, and
I need to.
you need to.
Yeah, I mean,
it's part of your work.
And also because I can't, you know, I like to trust in people's. Everyone extends each other's cosmos through that. So, and thinking about what you were saying before about the things that we have in common, I think that obviously our work is very different, Alicia and mine, but you know, I think something in common would be you know, really trying to go for these big questions, these fundamental questions that are often also too hard to even to name or to grasp, and the attempt to do that is something I would say that we have in common, and that's. Yeah, I mean, I have a bit of difficulty talking so much about the performance because it's happening now in a moment or two. But so I hope you'll join us. But yeah.
So tell us about the work in the Indonesian pavilion.
Well, yes, as you mentioned at the beginning, when I was here for a site visit, I saw when the Architectural Biennale was on, I saw Martin Rauch and Anna Heringa's piece in the Giardini in the Italian pavilion, and Central Pavilion, I mean. And they had this house and the floor and everything out of this mud, the Venetian mud, and they're doing this sustainable materials and buildings.
Yes.
And so my first thought was just that was going to be thrown away, and could I have it, you know? So
you did the same thing Aravena did with the plasterboards of the previous art Biennale.
Yeah. Well, very luckily I approached them and they agreed to sponsor me. So it was for me that was the biggest experience I've had so far from this whole Biennale was being here in March. Nobody else was here. The walls weren't built yet in the Arsenale. And it was just me and the mud and the architects and the people we made the floor and the stage and the pedestals, and that was just the most amazing experience. Like, I can't say it. Also, I'd been sitting on the computer for 8 months like this on the computer, doing these maps on Photoshop, and then I was on all fours, you know, with this mud, making it into this floor. So that was the start of it. In any case, yeah, I mean, I also responded to the space. I knew already where I was going to be located, and I really wanted to work as much as I could with the building, with the original elements. And so I made specifically the metal plates with the maps on them for the windows. The scale is based on the size of the windows. And let me think, what else have I got in there?
Well, you've got the warm tomb.
I have 1 year.
I have I mean, it's a piece that, as I mentioned to you before, my practice is process-based, which really just means that I'm reusing different elements whenever they're needed in order to change the conversation around them. And as I said, you know, kind of in the sense, I guess, in the sense of a Gesamtkunstwerk, you know, that it's just getting, the language is just getting bigger and bigger and hopefully closer to what I'm trying to be talking about. So it has pieces from 2011, which is actually when we met, from the base in Berlin. Yeah. It has basically elements of the first piece that we met through and up until now. So it really has kind of is. And
how does your studio look like?
Like a
mess?
Like it looks like a mess, but yeah, a mess, sure, for sure. Yeah. I don't really notice what I don't know what I should give away about that now.
Did it also get a mud floor?
To bring the attention on the daily, because you were talking about your practice, so what is your daily practice? So what do you do, or do you have a studio or not, and so on. I know Alicia has a very nice big studio in a rough district in Berlin, where she courageously go there with other artists, and she has like all the works, and she's experimenting, and she's like the boss of the studio. She has people entering, bringing crates, you know, or companies that work for her that brings the elements that she has ordered.
Yes, immediately, in time.
And everything is so, you know, perfectly.
Oh yeah, we're like complete opposites for sure.
And you might have a different style, I think.
Yeah, I have a kind of mountains of different fabrics, and I just have these kind of like little areas of where everything is blubbering over. But yeah, and a lot of just things on the wall. I mean, the walls really happen as a sketch for me. Just like a giant blackboard, as you said. It's also happening in the space. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I work project to project, so and I make a lot of the work in not in the studio, but in a fabrication company together with them in Uferhallen, which is now going to be closed, but that's different because they just sold it, you know, and Berlin just sold it.
Yesterday.
Yeah, the other day, so that's fantastic. But basically, a lot of artists work there, and that's where you can work with all these toxic materials and so on. So I'm making my figures in the womb tomb, the thermochromic things, the color changing elements, and a lot of these things I'm working with other people as well as Alicia is. But yeah, I mean, every day I have a daily studio practice, sure.
And Alicia, I mean, you might exchange some information about the best companies which is able to do this and that. You know, I notice sometimes when artists talk, they are very much interested in this kind of stuff. And your daily life in the studio?
I have a quite regular daily life. I mean, I appear at 10 and I'm there until 10 or something. Usually, I mean, when I'm not traveling, but because I have people working for me, so I really like to be alone in the studio. So I always try to stay at night or it's a weekend because then I'm alone and I can kind of create. I can't create when I have people around me. And the daily life is really like very much just, you know, checking things, ordering things, running after projects, doing sketches, developing renderings, talking to engineers, talking to architects, talking to and making models, yeah. And then at 10 o'clock in the evening, you know, I turn on my music and then I'm like there myself, and really lucky.
Anybody from this part of the table? Yes, please.
Hi, thank you for being here. You said that you knew each other since '99, but only now, like, collaboration has kind of flourished, and it seemed to have worked pretty well for you.
But we
Like
haven't done it
everything
yet,
was,
but
everything was really organic, and I don't know, you seem quite happy about it. I think like both the artworks like really talk to each other, and I would like to know, like, do you have any plans for future collaboration, like based on the lessons that you've taken from this one? You like how it came out?
We haven't done it yet.
We haven't
It
done
hasn't
it.
happened.
But to be honest, I
But
never
we'll
planned
see.
that. I would never plan a
crossed.
collaboration. I mean, it's like it has to happen or not. I mean, if I'm like getting in a situation, it's happening. If it's not, but I would never ever, me myself, just personally, I would never plan a collaboration. I would never say like, okay, let's do something in 1.5 years.
I mean, it's based
So
on...
it's more okay, it's like probably she will have another show and I have an idea, or somebody else, you know, it's like more like, for me it's more like this. It's not like that I'm saying like, yes, I do that again in a year or something. Yeah.
I think that I'm hyper aware of the fact that this piece is unlikely, I think, say, unlikely to have another, like, Alice's piece, I don't know if it's going to be kept together as one piece.
Yes, yes, it will.
It will?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. So there you go. So in any case, you know,
But
it's a
it goes to
major
Los
work.
Angeles,
It weighs 3,000 tons or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and the location is not going to be repeatable by the water.
Yeah.
So I think that it's just, I feel like it's just the biggest chance to create to have a little experience, you know. I hope that that's what's going to be possible, and yeah, I mean, I don't think that there is. I also don't think that there's any way to articulate anything further than that, because it's always based on a response, you know.
Yeah, but also
it's
on the
desire
place, on the
also.
time, on, you know, like on so many things. So it's not like, you know. Yeah.
I don't generally think that I definitely would say that I don't generally think that I'd be looking at Alice's work and thinking, I need to add something to that. Not that I think that needs something too, just that it changes some changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You seem to really like to conversate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to each other by
Yeah.
means.
Yeah.
Maybe like by means of art.
yeah,
This is what I
yeah,
mean, that
yeah.
your artworks
Yeah.
really
Let's
seem
see.
to talk to
We
each other.
give
Well,
our
like,
best. We
Well,
just
Because
need
you guys talk
courageous
to each
invite
other,
us
you
to-
know?
Yeah.
So there is like this exchange of energy.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Well, Alice's
This is what I mean.
piece is one of my favorites in the world ever, this piece. So that also helps that I've been lying on top of it for the past few days, but it's just, it's really just the most amazing and beautiful piece. It's really, I just don't even, I feel very, very silly about it, actually, like a fan. So it's very exciting to me to go on top of it. But, you know, I was preparing the whole time for the installation for the Biennale, and then I had the performance. We filmed our performance that was in the video in my piece, and then we had the live performance at the opening. So really all my preparation went into the piece here, and this is kind of, for me, extremely short amount of time to do a piece like this. So normally I'm very, very slow with performances, so I take like a year or something. So really this is a collaboration with a lot of people, as I mentioned, with Saleh, Yazdani, and Gediminas, Saigos, and Alicia, and Kerstin, and it's like an attempt at doing something, and I'm confident that it'll be special, So I'm very grateful that I get the chance to do it. Yeah, really.
Christine, you wanted to say something?
I was very surprised by the way you found your acrobat. I mean, in front of your door, actually.
Oh, yeah.
If you can tell.
Yeah,
So that's so funny.
well, actually,
it seems that collaboration is so natural to her that the acrobat lives just in front of her.
Well, actually, it's my old studio, and that studio Alice got me back 7 years ago. So that came through, and it was above Alice's old studio. And the floor we had this huge floor, a lot of artists that I shared with, and the other half of the floor was the acrobatic studio. Based Berlin Caesar twins. So when I was looking for an acrobat, I just looked them up where they are now and who's at their school and so on. And we looked at all their videos, their crazy circus videos, and this guy stood out. Yeah, he's 20, so it's a.
Are the twins still active, actually?
They're still active. Yeah. See, that's who he worked for.
Yeah.
That's Berlin.
Yeah.
Anybody? No questions?
Coffee and cakes and
cocky. I think they probably went to get coffee at the bar. They're making it expressly.
I'm curious if any of the artists here, like Soo-kyung or Dawn, I don't want to involve you if you don't, but I mean, you have other type of performance practice. Dawn, for example, she's staying here 6 months long.
Oh, wow.
And because she brought her studio in the exhibition and it's the piece. So, and Soo-kyung, she did a very precise, very designed performance with a Korean dancer and 2 performers. She reinterpreted North dance. Do you have a reaction to their work, or shall we leave you alone with your coffee?
I'm still thinking. And I try my best to understand more deeper level. So I think I should not open my mouth to present myself so stupidly. I'm just listening. Thank you, Christine.
Dawn is in the central pavilion at the Giardini. So if you want to hear some music and see her paint or do things.
So what were you sort of just checking in about now?
Checking in about the way as a performance artist, because you come from the West Coast school, like you had Paul McCarthy as a teacher, you're a LA performance raised artist, right? And came from a background. You come from a background where you were also very interested in the vernacular culture, so it's very different. But how do you look at the practice of Mariechen? Maybe you don't know it, but or you want to see something about doing performances Venice as something very harsh?
What is performing in Venice like?
Wow, that was a lot all at once. Hello, my name is Dawn. Thanks, everyone, and thank you both. It's an honor
to see you all together.
I know, it's so lovely.
I think
it's really nice. And
the table with the
so great.
The biggest number of artists.
All women, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, women. Right? Thank you. Yes. So...
But we actually know each other, you know?
I mean...
What am I?
I don't know that.
Yeah.
Hint, hint. I love both of you. So, and I know Marieken's work, of course. I've eaten some cake in New York.
Yes. She was there.
Kristen too.
We know each other from LA. Yeah.
And I love your piece here. So singing praises, of course, yes. And we know each other from LA, and and I mean, you were in school. I mean, I saw her perform with Liz Glenn, and it was like. I was in awe
we
of
have
you.
Very close mutual friends, so we know each other about each other anyway through that.
Yes. Yes.
You studied in LA too?
Yeah. At CalArts, yeah.
Tell me everything about that.
I was there.
You can come back. I'm here for 6 months.
I don't know when your time was, because you moved to New York at a certain point, but I was there from 2006 till 2010. And you were there.
Is there another?
You were there then.
2006 to 2000. Yeah. So I moved to Los Angeles from the East Coast in 2000.
Thank you.
So I went to UCLA from 2000 to 2003, but I hung out for some years after. And yes, I did go to UCLA to work with Chris Burden and to study with Chris Burden, and I was fortunate to be there with Paul McCarthy, and Pipolati Rist was even there for a semester, and John Baldessari. I mean, yes, amazing, and I love West Coast performance, and I hung out at CalArts, and it was, you'd go up, it's like Valencia is not far, and everyone hung out with everybody. I mean, there's so many art schools in California.
Yeah,
but,
there's 6.
It's just
six at least, isn't there?
Yeah, so, yeah. And
I saw you perform at LACMA She was dead. She was lying somewhere with blood or something.
That was part of Machine Project.
That was
yeah,
Machine Project.
yeah.
I was cutting hair. Like
Yes.
100 people's hair.
That was so
like
fun. And
2 hours.
Liz did Rome in a day.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah, and I remember seeing, and I was like, "Who's this
We were
dead
just
woman lying
kids
around?"
then, right?
And they were like, "That's Dawn Casper." Everybody knew her. Everybody.
I was tarred and feathered, yeah, under the Calder sculpture. It was good times. Good times. Yeah, no, it's
Did you see something from her at the time?
Oh yeah.
Not until later, I'd say, but probably. Yeah.
What was she doing that
It's
she
kind
didn't
of
tell me?
Oh, good, you have your own mic now. Oh no, I mean Mariechen was always in the mix, yeah, singing and yeah, it's a blur though. It
I know.
seems the timeline of it. I mean,
10
we'd have to
years
sit
ago.
down
No, but
and
she,
really put it
among all her
together.
talents, she sings.
Oh,
She's,
absolutely brilliant.
You have to listen
Yeah.
to her music with her group Unmap. I mean, I'm a fan personally.
Yeah, I forewarn you. I forewarned that compliment with the tag character voice. Actually, my singing coach is here. Actually, you have to acknowledge Annette Goris from Berlin.
Wow.
Yeah. I haven't been to her in ages, so don't blame her if it sounds funny today.
Honored.
Anyway, yeah.
Should I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, performance, yes. And yeah, it's, I sort of come from primarily performance because it's, I value my body as a sculpture. I sort of reference like Gilbert and George singing sculpture early on. And that piece really, you know, opened things up and yeah, I mean, of course, the work of Chris Burden and Paul McCarthy and Mike Kelly and West Coast Art. But yeah, like this piece that I've brought here, The Sun, the Moon, and the Stars, it's the iteration of the Nomadic Studio practice experiment, which, for those of you that may not know, it's a sort of nomadic studio. Anytime I'm invited to participate in an exhibition, you know, something like this, a biennial or a gallery, even someone's living room, I come and I expose the process of creating the exhibition as the exhibition. So hopefully by the end of the 6 months I'll have the work finished. So cross your fingers. But yeah, I mean today I was just reading, I'm reading a really great book at the moment. But yeah, like
So we have to come the last day of the exhibition.
Yes, please, if you
to
can.
see the work.
Yeah, so I mean,
there, huh?
each
Yes.
month is a different chapter, you know, and this month I'm sort of working more on video. So it's, you know, I have like a GoPro that I put on my head.
I've seen you there.
Yeah, it's and yeah, I'm you know, it has its range of emotions, its range. Each iteration has its own set of challenges and problems and solutions, and you know, it's, you know, sometimes it's dramatic and crying, and you know, or sometimes it's like I'm just moving around. You know, I move the installation around. I
You're
have
interactive the whole time,
conversations.
so
Yeah,
I think
studio
being
visits. I met the president of Italy the other day.
Yeah,
I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I was in the middle of a studio visit
was
with a
there
friend,
too.
and the whole crew. I was like, oh yes, and Christine. It's always so lovely to see you
It was amazing.
in the studio.
So obviously you have different practices.
When you come to visit, you know, maybe we'll have an organic collaboration. Anyone who enters the space then becomes a part of the environment and a part of the performance. I mean, even I use performance. It's such a, it can be loaded, but in this way, it's much. There's freedom involved. You know, even walking through. I mean, I love it. People are like, "What are you doing? What is this?" You know, and that's exactly. It's like, yes, it's in a performance environment. It's a studio. It's a seed for learning. It's a activism. It's a revolution. I don't know. It's all of it. But also it just is. Like you were addressing performances. It's just organic. It just happens.
But there is a big difference, though. Here is that you art and life is like this, you know, as John Dewey and
I mean, I've never.
Alan Capro.
Of course,
so
it's the blurring of art and life. Yes.
Whereas here, you have a more theatrical way or to perform. It's very thought in advance. It's planned. There is a whole scenography.
Well, mainly I'd also say
And,
that...
and my question, and
yeah,
just one
yeah.
question, you will comment that, but the question is, would you define yourself more as a performer who is doing sculpture and so on, or primarily as a sculptor? How do you articulate this? Because even if you are multimedia, there is always one first.
Yeah, I think that the sculpture is definitely the first, drawing and sculpture. But I have to say that it's like I don't see myself as a performer in the traditional sense, because I don't even though my interests stem from a performative background and also West Coast. I mean, that's why I moved to LA and all these things. But my way to access performance was always through the voice, and it was always rooted in song, and the opportunity and the accessibility that happens when through repetition, through melody, and also through through different tones of clarification of the voice breaking down and so on. And really, these it's always been rooted in that, and of course that in one sense limits my format. So I'm not going to be. I don't have the desire to do a different type of performance, which doesn't mean that's not going to happen. But that's not where my impulse lies. It's always about seeing what happens through, also, for example, through ideas of an early language or through para-language, and not always through the hierarchy of the 26 letters of the alphabet, trying to get to a different kind of articulation or work within it. But, as I said, always vocally based. So that's obviously a specific area, and that's why I think I don't see myself as a traditional, a traditional performance art.
But at least you both expose yourself. Like Alicia, she's more intellectually thinking of living work, processual, with the obsession central in her work, which is time always. I think if we go back to your obsessions, it's really about this idea of perception of things.
Yeah, it's perception, but it's
and time based events.
Actually, actually it's like all things we agreed on. It's like about our agreements for me, and how and what it is.
What you think is true from what we perceive.
Yes, and what it really is. So I kind of try to figure out what that is. I mean, what that means. What is I mean, and I think it's so abstract. I mean, for me, I'm really like, it kind of, every time I just need to think that I'm living on a flying bowl in a rotating system, it makes me obsessed, because that is so abstract. And then we are kind of trying to create, we are trying to live together here. So we are like trying to invent all these systems and measurements and agreements and values and things to say, okay, we can live here as a big group of animals because we need some orders. But is it right? Is it wrong? Is it the point of view? Could it be different?
We know it's wrong, by the way.
Yeah, it's
this time convention.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, so we kind of illustrate it all, and we make it simpler, more simple to be able to live in it and with it. And I kind of try to figure out what's really behind, kind of, or what it could be.
Putting in question the more apparently obvious realities of our humankind or human life, like time, for example, which is not what we think it is, which would be like a universal time that we all share. Because you did this piece with the clocks. Yeah, clock arms. Can you just...
I did just read, I did a little series to also support the performance. And it's just a circle, and it's made of little clock arms. So what I do, what I also try to do is like to combine two measurement systems, like centimeters and time. And I shift them. So so that was a little addition with like a circle made of those clock arms, but the circle is created by a different position of the clock arm. So one is on 12, one is on 1, one is on 2, one is on 3, and then you figure out that it creates a pattern, but this pattern is in there. It's not my pattern. I haven't invented it, and it's like. And then I also measure space in time. So what I do is like I glue them on walls, and I glue all the room, and I have a 1 centimeter gap between each hour. And then I measure the room in time, so the room is not like 3 meters, whatever, but it is probably like 50 days and 3 hours. So yeah, so that's so it's like kind of to try to see what the system is made of and
conventions actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also which authority.
Yeah, but it's also like so I did a lot of works also. So it's not just because sometimes people think that I'm mostly interested like in space and time and this thing. It's one point, but the other thing is also like what I'm saying, like agreements. I mean, who is saying that whatever money is money, that gold is gold? What is the value? Who's agreeing on that? There are people agreeing. There's somebody sitting there on the metal market. There's like it's happening, and we do this.
Yeah,
and then
and all these conventions that are linked to the rise of capitalism, because in the 19th century, to make business, you had to agree on time.
Yes, exactly.
Values.
Exactly.
The meters.
Exactly. Yeah. So that for example, what I also always try to find is like I call it like it's like a objet trouvé, but it's not an objet trouvé because it's not an objet, but it's more like to find systems and to see them. To kind of take them out from an invisible system agreement. So I did a lot of works with about the timelines of the planet also. So I've been like putting them on top of each other, and when you put them on top of each other, they look like a pulse, like a a heartbeat. So it's a capitalistic heartbeat because both ends are still straight because it's not belonging to anybody because it's the South and the North Pole. So it's like it's like about structures we create ourselves for ourselves, and we agree on it, and it's very much connected to capitalism but we create that also. So I kind of try to figure out why we do the things and how we live together here and where we live and what these things are.
And how to know.
Yeah, and how to know, and yeah.
Well, you would be more questioning the language itself and the way of representing.
Yeah, well, knowledge transfer and how we can even comprehend things.
Yeah.
And how to
language or representation.
Yeah,
in general,
and who knows how to understand, always taking into consideration who's telling you what. So, as opposed to a presumed neutrality or objectivity, which is how we're communicated all information.
So, where you deeply meet, actually.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Beyond appearances.
Yeah.
So I think maybe this is the best way to end the table and this Tavola Aperta, and also because it's 2 o'clock, so we will see this meeting between Alicia and Mariechen. And I want to thank you both for coming here today, for the Tavola, and all our guests for being here, Christine especially, for making this a wonderful conversation. And all the other artists, Don, Yusuf Kung, also Roman Zaslanov, who we have here. Well, thank you everybody, and enjoy the performance.